Hi guys, welcome to FOE Advanced. This is Bondfree from L World, and today I am doing a reissue video of rogues, all about rogues and what they are and how to use them, how to get them, and I'm going to just show you some real world battle scenarios. This is one of my diamond farms currently in LMA, and I believe this is in T World. And what I wanted to do was just take you through what is it, because when I first started playing this game, I played it for a while, and I would see events come up, and I would see rogues offered. I really didn't know what they were. I didn't know how they worked, and even after I did understand what they were, it took me a while to really understand how to best use them in a battle scenario, whether you're auto battling or manually battling. There's considerations in both scenarios. One thing first is how do you get them? You can acquire a rogue hideout first, which is a 3x2 building that you can usually get through events and various special offerings in the game. It seems to vary when and how you can get them. I know in some of my diamond farms, it took me months to come across my first rogue den. The thing that kind of blows is if you don't have a Traz and you need to, you're relying on rogues and you change your fighting style and your city layout to take advantage of the capability of rogues. It's a 24-hour training cycle for a full one, and plus you have to pay diamonds to unlock. So I generally don't do that. Now this is an upgraded rogue hideout. It's a rogue den, which makes it a smaller footprint. I'd also like to point out that you do not need to have this connected in any way, just like any other military building, if you have a Traz. As long as you have a unit building in your city, connected or disconnected, with units built or not, the Traz will make a random amount of those troops up to its daily production. In this case, I've got a tiny little level 10 Traz. It makes 8 units, and that means it's going to make some rogues and then some of whatever else I have in here, the great sword warriors, cannons. I have another video talking about how to focus the Traz to make more of what you want. It's a little tricky. It's a misunderstood building, and I'd suggest watching that video as kind of a tie-in to this if you're really wanting to optimize your gameplay with your Traz and optimize your city space, because right now I'm pretty inefficient, being that I'm running a Traz and I've got 3-4 military buildings in my town. It looks like 3 actually right now, but that the Traz may pop out 2 rogues and 3 cannons and the rest great sword warriors, whatever the math is on that. So if I just want to just keep hammering rogues, for example, I could delete these other buildings temporarily and then only get rogues, that type of thing. So there's more of that in my other video, but back to rogues for a second. So it's a unit that will turn into any unit that is on the battle map when you go to battle. So it has to get hit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to GE. We just started today, and I'm just going to pick the first encounter scenario here. So let's see. We've got some crossbows. So ranged unit. Okay. So rogues don't always work well with this type of ranged unit. They work really well if you have some opposition in terms of artillery units. Artillery units generally will target rogues pretty quickly, which you want when they hit. But in this case, we're early on, so I'm going to grab a couple of rogues here just to see. I'm going to choose no age because it's just easier to filter. On my more advanced accounts, because the rogue is in the footman category, a lot of times if I don't have a need for these guys, these light units, I will just delete all these, or I'll fill them in GVG DAs and things like that, just so that when I go to my age, like say I would choose LMA, I would just immediately see rogues, so I wouldn't have to kind of keep filling with it. But one quicker way is to just choose no age, because rogues are a non-era unit, so they take on the era of whatever unit you are, you have units you have on the map. So here we go. So in this case, I'm going to choose a manual attack so that you can see, what's going to happen here. The ranged units, I generally like to go after them with fast units. And it is running a bit slow. Yeah, let's turn off animations or whatever. So I'm going to zoom this out a little bit. That's better, I think. So in this case, yeah, I want to run the horses out first because I want these guys to target the horses and not my artillery. This is not a perfect scenario for putting rogues up front, which is something I like to do because you want them to convert. Now in this case, because I have two types of units on the map, I've got artillery and I just call them fast movers, fast units. These rogues, when hit, could turn into either of these units, which it's random and it can be very inconvenient. Like say this guy gets close enough over here and pops this rogue and he turns into a cannon. It's not so great, right? It'd be better if he turned into a horse. So in this, again, this particular battle sequence is not that great to show this off. So I just wanted to show this small scenario where I can, put my fast units up front. Okay, now I can bring my rogue up here, and the enemy may take a whack at one of my rogues. We'll see, but they're probably going to be dead by then. So this was obviously a really that's way too high resolution. Let's go back. So let's try the next encounter and see what happens. So, all right, we got 4 of these guys. Not a big deal, but what I wanted to show you mainly is that you can choose what to do first. So in some cases, like if I want my rogues to, I'm just going to show you in this example, I'm going to have all these guys sit here. I'm going to skip their turns. And this is a good thing to do even on auto. So it's like hybrid auto battling where you can, if you see what's coming at you and you can decide, maybe you don't send your guys out right away and you want to get your rogues out front and then you go to auto battle. So I'm skipping all these turns, which I know sounds crazy, but now I'm going to bring my rogue out. And this is especially helpful if you have, like say 2 horsies and 6 rogues, then you can keep your horsies back here and then run 6 rogues up here up front, and then that forces these guys to focus on them. Now as you get more advanced in the game, there's going to be units that are smart enough to ignore rogues, but you don't have to worry about that for like a really long time if you're playing lower eras. So I'm just going to again kind of hold these guys back just for the example to show. So now you've seen the rogue. Okay, both these rogues chose to be cannons, which really sucked, and that's the downside of having multiple units that they can turn into. They just do whatever they want to do. So, in a lot of scenarios, I will use the same unit. So I'm going to surrender here. And that way, when I'm fighting, I can do, I know exactly what they're going to turn into. So if I just put, say, let's do this again. Actually, I didn't surrender. I just auto-battled. Whoops. Habit. So let's grab a heavy unit. Maybe I'll grab like 2 heavy units. And then I'm going to just do the rest rogues here. And then we'll hit that map. And in this case, there's no chance that a rogue is going to turn into anything except the same units I started with, these heavy guys. So, and what's totally rad about rogues is if you have a unit that hits back once, it has the feature to strike back once it's hit, the rogue will do the same thing. So the rogue will convert once it's attacked and then strike back the same way the unit would, which is kind of like doubling down. It's not as cool of a benefit in some cases as say that an AO. Like I love the Arctic Orangery because it never runs out of chances to be used. It's a really, really effective GB. Very expensive to level up, but it's totally awesome. I recommend focusing on the AO before even the TA past level 10 or the Kraken, that type of thing, because they're just they're expensive, and like the Kraken runs out of uses. So you see how he converted and he struck back right there. That's what I wanted you to see. So we'll do it again here in a sec, and boom, strike back. So the rogue converted it. The rogue always takes the hit, whatever the full hit is. It doesn't do any damage. So the conversion soaks the entire hit, and now you have a chance to, one hit. In this case, these guys are done. So incredibly powerful unit to use for auto battling, as long as you know how to set up your units, which ones to select for which fighting scenarios. So I'm just going to finish this with auto battle, and then we are going to go on out to the main screen. So I also wanted to talk about artillery units. So one thing you wouldn't want to do, let me show you this battle. It doesn't matter what age you're in. My recommendation is, generally speaking, I'm just going to move on to this next encounter here. You don't want to line up like say 2 cannons and 6 rogues. It's a bad idea, because by the time the opposing units get close enough to convert these guys, because the cannons like to hang back, or they should hang back rather, these guys are going to be too close for your ranged units to really work. So that's why, like in the first scenario, I used some horsies to kind of lead out, and then I pushed my rogues out, and then you can reinforce with the cannons from behind the flanks, if you will. That technique will work across the ages, the eras, whatever you're doing. Now, there are some scenarios where if you see all artillery over here on the enemy side, then you do this. That's the one situation where that artillery is going to start firing right away, and you want as many rogues as you can to take those first hits, because then they won't count. That first round of artillery fire is going to do nothing to hurt you, and then you can strike back. So there are do's and don'ts. There's no absolutes in this. You want to be sure you're brushed up on your fighting game in terms of pairing your units. You need to know which units to put against what you're facing here, right? So rogues aside, right? Like we've got two horsies and a couple of these guys. I would just go up against these with heavies. Like I just look at that and I'm like, normally if I didn't have rogues, I'd just go like 8 cannons and just that's it, done. But because they have horses, they may be able to get across the field and take out my cannons. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just fast fighting. I'm just going to a couple of those guys, 3 of those guys, and then I'm going to choose rogues, and then I'm going to hit auto battle, and this is going to be over, and that's great. So I like heavies in the earlier eras, because even though light units have an advantage against horsies, they're kind of weak against the general mix of things, and I just like the way heavies work. Now we've got a couple of ranged units here, artillery. So let's watch this. So instead of auto battling, I'm going to just go attack, and then what you're going to see here is I'm going to try to get those artillery units to pop the rogues, and then we can head across to start taking everybody out. So I'm going to leave him here for now. Leave those guys, and then wait for these to do. Okay, see, so that one converted and that one converted. So now I'm sure that I've got at least conversion of 2 of these guys before I start engaging in battle. Now that I've done that, I'm going to do a hybrid auto battle here. I feel pretty good about the rest of this, so I'm just going to basically hit auto, and I'm going to let it finish up. So that's how you hybrid battles. You hold your preformed troops back, put your rogues forward, and then pretty good success in that endeavor. Helps you speed things up. It gives you just a better military advantage. It doesn't beat up your core troops as much. And when you look at this situation, like, this is a small city. I'm focused on diamond production. Now, discussing Diamond City strategy is like a whole other topic. It can get really deep and philosophical. In this case, I'm just kind of messing around with Diamond Cities. So this one is a little odd, right? Because it's not just filled with diamond farms. Honestly, it's got as many, fountains, so wishing wells. So I have as many of these as I can literally, as I've been able to get in the game, since I opened this city. And there's room for other stuff, right? So in this case, and this will apply to anyone playing in the earlier ages, it's amazing the level of efficiency a Traz will get you earlier on in the game, because real estate is so tight earlier on until you get your metals, until you get your expansions, that you realize, okay, I need to build all these military buildings. If you're going to have a military, you've got to have 3 or 4 different kinds of units. You may have a rogue den or a hideout. Then you have to have all the houses to support all these buildings, and it takes up all this space. As soon as you build a Traz, you can delete all but one of these at a time. I just had the space, so I built a few, but theoretically I could do a collection today. Before I collect, delete this and this and this, and only produce rogues, and then click and collect on my Traz, and now I've focused on rogues, and then just rebuild this if I want tomorrow. Now, I'm not recommending you ever delete your rogue stuff, because it's just too hard to regain them unless you have a ton of them in stock. In my higher accounts, I will definitely delete those, because I have like 40 of them in stock when I want to focus on, I need to build 75 of this one unit right now because I'm doing, GVG or whatever. So even early in the game, this is a huge building, but, consider getting others to help you in your guild or whatever with the goods you need to get this, because it's just a game changer for your real estate optimization, because now you can delete related houses, related, military buildings, etc. The other thing you can do is just adjust your fighting styles now, because if you have a lot of rogues, and I recommend just build hundreds of them if you can, now you can fight a little more freely and lose more units when you're auto battling. So say you're speed fighting in GVG or GBG, either of the G's, you can just kind of shred through rogues faster. You can use them for DAs, and you're just not that worried about it. Once you get your Traz up, even level 25 or 30, it's amazing how much it adds up. So that is the fundamental idea of rogues. I hope this has been helpful. I had recorded a previous version of this showing my Saab city, and I had left the sound on, and it was horrifically annoying to everyone that tried to watch it. So hopefully this is helpful for both players that are maybe in earlier ages, but also anyone that just really wants to optimize their rogue game and how they work. Post any questions you have. Thanks for listening, and comment, ask me about other topics you're interested in, and forge on.